Hello, everyone. I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsey Wilson College Office of Public Relations, and this is The View from the Hill, the podcast of Lindsey Wilson College. Every week during the academic year, The View from the Hill features conversations with some of the people who help create the dynamic, living, learning environment that serves the educational needs of every Lindsey Wilson student every day. In this 18th edition of the 2025 View from the Hill podcast, we're going to hear from a couple of Lindsey Wilson students, Reilly Wells and Madi Corbin. They're going to tell us why they knew they were always destined to become Blue Raiders. Spring is when college-bound high school seniors typically decide which school they will attend in the fall. For two South Central Kentucky residents, the decision where to attend college was always an easy one. Reilly Wells of Columbia and Madi Corbin of nearby Greensburg, Kentucky, are cousins who grew up on and around Lindsey Wilson because they had several family members who served at the school. Madi is a biology major who's a member of the class of 2026, and Reilly is a media studies and theater double major who will also graduate during the 2025-2026 school year. And while they both saw a lot of Lindsey Wilson while growing up, they were also exposed to plenty of other colleges and universities. That gave them a pretty good idea of the rich diversity of American higher education and its many options. Still, when it came time to apply to college, they both decided that they were interested in only one school, and one school is where they applied, Lindsey Wilson. As Madi explains, a big reason they were only interested in Lindsey Wilson was because they saw the impact the college has on people who come in contact with it.
Okay, so I decided to come to Lindsey Wilson College. It was actually a pretty easy decision. Me and my cousin, who's also on this podcast with me, we decided from a very young age that we were going to come to Lindsey Wilson College and be roommates. We have a bunch of family that works here, so my aunt, my uncle, my grandma, and then also my grandma on my mom's side, they all work here. I think a big factor that played a role in me coming to Lindsey Wilson College was my grandma, Nancy Sinclair. She instilled in me from a young age that you should achieve your dreams, you should go out and do what you want to do. And so I figured that no other better place to do that was here at the place that she called home for so many years. That's why I chose Lindsey Wilson College.
Reilly, what about you? Why did you wind up at Lindsey Wilson College?
I mean, I'm obviously in a very similar boat to Madi here. I mean, like, I could think back years when we were literally just kids running around in my grandma's basement together, reading books to one another and playing dress up. And we imagined ourselves like living happily ever after, basically, as roomies at college. And it's just, I'm so blessed that our dreams finally came true when we actually got to be here. But I think one of the big factors for me is that compared to Madi, I had both of my parents working here at Lindsey. And so like I spent a lot of my time, I mean, when I was 3 years old, my dad was the golf coach at the time. And my mom even said that by the time I was 3 years old, that I had traveled and been on more plane rides than her in her entire life. So it's just, I knew that going to a bigger school would not give me as many opportunities as Lindsey has given me. And me standing here today as a 4-year student currently, I can definitely say that that is the case. And so that definitely was the biggest factor for me, is that I know that this is a close community and Lindsey Wilson is truly family. Not just because I have actual blood relatives here, but because of the connections and the relationships I've had ever since I was a child. It's just continued on through the years.
We'll talk a little bit about those special opportunities you all had at Lindsey Wilson in a moment. But first of all, correct me now if I'm wrong, you all had a pretty short list when it came to your college choices, right, Reilly? You didn't look at many other schools.
No, there was literally one at the top of my list. I mean, I definitely had opportunities to go to different colleges. I was in the Rogers Scholar Program when I was in high school. I went to Morehead University and I spent an entire week there. And it was great. The engineering program was phenomenal. And I went up to like the astronomy building as well. And obviously the dining hall. The dining hall is one of my biggest things. It's like, if the dining hall isn't good, then I don't want to go there. It just kind of, as soon as I started going to other colleges, like with 4-H in UK, I've been to WKU, I've been to Camelsville, I've been to numerous of college campuses, but I would always compare them to Lindsey. That would always be the standard. And so I just knew as soon as I started being like, well, Lindsey has this, but they don't, blah, blah, blah. It just like nothing seemed to matter at that point. It was just Lindsey all the way or no way. So that's when I knew, as soon as I started comparing them to Lindsey, that this was definitely the place I was going to be.
Maddie, how about you? How long was your college search list?
I had one college, and it was Lindsey Wilson College. In high school, you can apply to all of these different colleges, see what you get into, and the only college I applied to was Lindsey Wilson College. Going back to our first question on why I chose Lindsey Wilson College, another big factor was because it's so close to home. I think that was one of the key instances as to why it was my only college, is because I'm such a close, family-knit person. And so anything above an hour away was not going to cut it for me. And this college is about 15 minutes away from where I live. So yeah, Lindsey Wilson College was the only college I applied for. It was the only college I wanted to come to. It's what I was grown up to know. And yeah.
Reilly, you mentioned about this myriad of opportunities that students have at Lindsey Wilson. Talk about some of those opportunities you've had as a student at the college.
One of the things that I have always witnessed ever since I was a wee child was the singers program. And Dr. Chafin, I was in his wife's preschool program. And so I had that connection basically instantly. And so as growing up and, becoming more a part of the arts rather than athletics, I definitely showcased more artistic expression in dance and singing and theater and all that. And so obviously that gave an opportunity for me to get the attention of Dr. Gerald Chafin, who I admire and adore dearly. And so I've been to Vermont. I've been to the East Coast, Upper East Coast. I've been to California just recently. I even got to go to Canada. And so that was an amazing opportunity in of itself. And then as an RA, I got to go to New York. And so I think the biggest opportunities I got to do was be able to travel and see the world and embrace the culture that is different from Kentucky and Columbia itself. And this May, I'm actually going to be going to Harlexton, which is basically a sister school to Lindsey Wilson now. And it's in England. I've never been to England before. And that's crazy. It's mind blowing, literally, the opportunities that I've got to experience, because I'm a small town girl, but I'm getting to see big city things. And that's just amazing in and of itself.
Maddie, what about you? What kind of opportunities have you had here as a student at Lindsey Wilson?
Bouncing off of Reilly, I was also an RA, and I was able to go on my first plane ride to New York City. It was a thrilling, exciting, and scary time. But without ability to be an RA, I would not have been able to do that, because I am not about to get on a plane by myself just on the whim. So that was a fun experience, but also just meeting new people. In my high school, I've always known each and every person who I grew up with. I spent 13 years of my whole life with them. And so on campus, I try to be involved as much as I can. So like I said, I was an RA. I'm a peer mentor. So I've been able to build bonds with incoming freshmen, let them know what the college is like. So that has been a really good opportunity as well. And then I've also been a tour guide here at Lindsey, and that has also allowed me to build connections. I'm the first person that they see on the tour. I'm the first image that they get of Lindsey Wilson College. And so I think being that person, it has allowed me to build a bond with Lindsey Wilson College, but also build a bond with incoming freshmen as well.
You mentioned you've given campus tours at Lindsey Wilson to prospective students and their family members. What sort of conversations do you have with them along the way when you're showing them around campus? What sort of things do you talk to them about?
Well, I first ask them what they plan on majoring in, where they're from, all of that stuff. And I try to kind of joke at the beginning and let them know that I've changed my major 4 times. So if they have any questions about majors, they can just ask me. I'm trying, if I have a big group of students, I try to interact with everybody just so I'm not leaving anybody out. If it's a small group, that actually helps me a lot because I get to have that one-on-one conversation. But I'm just asking them questions about if they've toured anywhere else, what they liked about the college, why they're choosing Lindsey. And then I just kind of give them student background as to what I do on campus. So like I said previously, tours, peer mentor, RA. I try to tell them stuff that's going on campus. So I like to mention intramurals. And then, I try to just build connections with them. That's pretty much it.
Reilly, how about you? You've also given campus tours. And when you talk to prospective students and their family members, what sort of wisdom do you impart upon them?
I would like to say that I have a pretty broad look at Lindsey. Like, don't get me wrong, I definitely know like the inner workings and like the different cogs and gears that make up Lindsey in and of itself. But my dad, he's part of the athletic department, so I get that insight of football, of softball, of golf, and all of the sports that we have available at Lindsey. And it's an amazing opportunity for me to actually relate to athletic prospects that come and tour Lindsey as well. And then also, I am part of the theater department. So obviously I have that insight as well and the experiences, and I can relate to that. And then also I just am a people person, so I could literally have a conversation with a brick wall if I really needed to. So I think that something that I always wanted to hit on when I gave tours was the very unique things that are on Lindsey's campus, like the mashed potato tower. I mean, who else has a mashed potato tower? I literally talk about the riot from the 90s.
All right, so we need to stop right there. Mashed potato tower. What do you mean by the mashed potato tower for the uninitiated and the unaware and unfamiliar?
Yes. Okay. So we have a water tower on campus, but during a tour, we normally just say that it's the mashed potato tower. It's unique to Lindsey Wilson College campus because if you go to the CAF and you have a meal, whether it be lunch or dinner, they will always be serving mashed potatoes. Now, the reasoning behind this is because in the 90s, they had mashed potatoes every single day for the CAF. But then the CAF director at the time literally took the mashed potatoes off the menu. The students on campus during that time quite literally had a riot and told the CAF to bring the mashed potatoes back. So that is why we call it the mashed potato tower, because ever since that riot, we have had mashed potatoes in the CAF every single day.
You're listening to the Lindsey Wilson View from the Hill podcast. I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsey Wilson Office of Public Relations. I'm talking to two Lindsey Wilson students, Reilly Wells and Madi Corbin, both of whom will graduate in 2025, 2026, and both of them knew there was only one college for them to attend. Reilly says that Lindsey Wilson's classes are a big part of the Lindsey Wilson experience, not just because of the material taught, but by who teaches the classes.
In high school, when I started off, like in my chemistry classes and my other, high school teachers, they always said, when they were giving presentations, you better write really quick because like in college, they're not going to wait for you to like finish the slide or whatever. Not the case for Lindsey at all. I can definitely tell you that. I was prepared to, be very much, bombarded by the intensity of a college classroom. And that was not the experience I had at Lindsey. The class sizes are smaller and they're more intimate, and you actually get a relationship with the professor. David Kogan, he is just one of the most amazing individuals. He's not just a good teacher, he's a good person. And I took one of his classes before I put media studies in my major. And I thought to myself, I was like, I can see myself having a future in this sort of field work. He does everything in his power to make me feel like I can succeed. And so does Robert Brock. And so does Gerald Chafin. And so does Dr. Allison Smith. All of them. I mean, that was theater, media studies, music, and English. I mean, that is such a broad spectrum. But all those people have impacted my life and have made learning fun again. Because I was dreading it. Like, not everybody can like school, but I like school because the people who are teaching me in those classes have made a positive impact on me. And that's why I can say that classes are just phenomenal, in my opinion, for me.
Maddie, how about you? What have your classes been like as a biology major at Lindsey Wilson?
So as a biology major, I would say my classes are extremely hard. No, I'm just kidding. They're not extremely hard, but they do work your mind a little bit. One of my favorite classes I actually took was microbiology with Miss Tabitha Ellis. We did a project in there after spring break where you're given an unknown. So it could have been like E. coli. I can't think of anything else because E. coli was what I had. But you had to run all of these different tests to see which unknown you had. And then we knew right off the bat that we had E. coli just because of the way it smelled. But anyhow, and then at the end, you were able to present to the class your findings, what you found from those different tests, and then you were able to talk about your unknown. I take a bunch of chemistry classes. Gen Chem and Gen Chem 2 were probably my favorite chemistry classes. Organic chemistry is on the harder side for me just because it's more about carbon and I just don't get it. But with the help of Dr. Johnson, he's helped make it bearable. And then also Dr. Clausen as well. She's a phenomenal professor. She's actually one of my favorite professors just because, like Reilly said, she likes to get on a personal level with you. I'm in cell biology with her right now, and that's also a hard class, but I do enjoy it because her teaching strategies make it interesting to learn about. And then Dr. Ash as well. She's an extremely phenomenal professor. She teaches animal diversity for me, and that's a class that I did not realize that I would like. I took took it because I thought I would like it over plant diversity better. And I actually do, because we've been able to we've dissected a shark, which we found 6 babies in our shark. We've dissected a starfish, which I didn't even know was possible. I'm trying to think of other things we dissected. We're dissecting a rabbit on Thursday, which is weird. But that is a fun class. And then like Reilly said also, my class sizes are extremely small. My organic chemistry class has about 8 people in it. So we all get to work together. We can form study groups. I've actually made a bunch of friendships in my class just because of the class sizes, because they're so small, so we have nothing to do but to talk to each other, because if we don't, it's just going to be extremely awkward, and who doesn't want to talk to each other? But I have to give credit to all of my professors, because no matter the intensity of my classes, they are all they let it be known that they are there to help me regardless if I think it's hard or if I'm exceeding. They're always there for me. When I need help, they're always there to let me know that I'm smart enough to do what I need to do, and I just have to give them full credit for everything.
Let's talk a little bit about life after Lindsey Wilson for both of you. Maddie, you plan to graduate in December of 25. Reilly, you in May of 2026. Reilly, let's talk a little bit about what you plan to do after Lindsey Wilson College.
So my short-term goal, I'm trying to not look too ahead in the future currently. So my short-term goal currently is to get a master's in creative writing. I talked to Dr. LaGreen about this, and he was like, don't just look at the schools in Kentucky, maybe look at schools out of state. And also look at assistantships, because I think that you would do great with that. I've always loved kids. I'm not saying that college kids are kids, but I love working with people who are wanting to better themselves and learn more. And I love that. I mean, I also love the camp world, the summer camp world, or just, working with, like I said, the youth. I'm also possibly looking at working at Camp Kentatton at some point in my life with the Tim Hortons Foundation in Campbellsville. And I think that would just be a phenomenal opportunity. But I'm not really looking specifically for a lifetime occupation per se. I want to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish right now. And right now it is definitely to get a master's degree in creative writing, whether it be from WKU or maybe even Arkansas. We don't know. We'll see.
Maddie, how about you? What does life after Lindsey Wilson look like for you?
So ever since high school, I have always been interested in forensic science. Me and my dad, we kind of share that same interest, watching crime shows, watching true crime. I've been in cahoots with this lady from Frankfurt, in the lab in Frankfurt, and I've been talking to her about what I need to accomplish here at the college in order to be able to get a job there. And so that's one reason why I have to stay an extra semester, is to take biochemistry. But I would really love to get a job in Frankfurt at the lab, working with DNA samples. But also I have a lot of interests, so there's no telling what I will do. Hence, I've changed my major 4 times. So at first I thought about not teaching, but the reason I didn't want to teach was because I was scared that I wouldn't be able to be a good teacher or to get the content across for students. But I had someone in my life recently tell me that they kind of brought me back to reality and tell me that, it'll be your first year. You learn that all in your first year. So who knows? Maybe I'll go teach, or I also like outdoors. So maybe I'll get a job with the outdoors somewhere. But right now, I'm really interested in forensic science. We'll see where that takes me, if it takes me anywhere.
Okay, as we wrap things up, what's one thing you wish everyone knew about Lindsey Wilson, or what's something that you've learned about Lindsey Wilson as a student that you didn't know before you came here? Because you were both pretty intimately acquainted with Lindsey Wilson before you became students here. So what was something that maybe surprised you, or you think something that people should know about the college that they don't? Reilly, let's start with you.
I think my experience is completely unique compared to other students. I kind of came into college with doing it in a backwards motion, I guess, because I knew the faculty before I knew the students. Because of those connections that I made, I did know the faculty, and I felt very comfortable in this environment. But I think it was 2 years ago when I was walking through the quad, and it was my birthday. I don't like to publicize my birthday. It's not a special day, in my opinion. It's just like every other day. And the amount of people who I did not know, mind you, like on a personal level, they wished me a happy birthday. It was one after another while I was walking. And I thought to myself, this is weird. I've never had this many people people who I did like know fully. Like, I mean, I don't know their birthday. I wish I did now, because like next time I see them on their birthday, I'm going to wish them a happy birthday. But it just really goes to show you that this is a community. It's not just a school. It's not just a business. It's not just, trying to pickpocket you out of money or anything like that. Like, don't get me wrong, education is expensive, but at the same time, it's also a community. It's also a family. And I think that me actually getting to experience that on a student level, not just from an outside perspective, was transcendent, I would probably say. So that's one thing that I would probably give to any incoming freshman or anybody who was not like at Lindsey 24/7, like me or Maddie or any of the students who live on campus. I just think that just know that you are heard, you are seen, you are loved here.
Maddie, how about you?
I think one thing that surprised me about Lindsey Wilson College was the international student population. Again, being in biology, I've had a bunch of students in my class who were from different countries. And I'm the type of person that if you speak a different language or if you have a different accent, I'm going to ask you to say something in that language, just because I'm so intrigued by the way they speak, the way they do things differently from us here in America. And again, just the way they act. I like to ask them about their family, if they're going to go home for the summer. Or I know this one guy on the soccer team. I did my peer mentor interview with him. And when it's summer here, it's actually winter in where he's from. So I asked him if he was going to go home, because I was like, that's kind of weird because we just get done with winter here and then he goes and has winter over there. But he said he was staying here. But anyhow, I think that's what surprised me most, was how many students we have here that are from different countries. And I think this kind of backs off of Reilly's answer. I don't think they would come here, and I don't think they would stay here unless they knew that they had people to fall back on and to know that they are loved and to know that they are cared for, because they are taking a risk coming to a college in a small town of Kentucky when they come from a country that is probably twice the size as where we're from. And so I think that it's important to note that if you feel out of place, or if you live, I'm from Greensburg and I still get homesick, so I can only imagine what these students feel like. But I think it's important to note, again, like Reilly said, no matter where you're from, you have a family here at Lindsey Wilson College, and there's always people here that will help you achieve your dreams, even help you schedule your classes, or help you figure out what you want to do with your life, or go to lunch with you. There's always somebody here that's going to help you and make you feel home here at Lindsey.
That's Madi Corbin of Greensburg, Kentucky, explaining what makes Lindsey Wilson a great place to learn and grow. You also heard from Maddie's cousin Reilly Wells of Columbia. Both Blue Raiders will graduate in 2026, making them part of the first graduating class of Lindsey Wilson University. And that's going to do it for this 18th edition of 2025's View from the Hill. View from the Hill is produced by Shelby Burton. She's Lindsey Wilson's Assistant Director of Public Relations and Media Producer. And you can tell us what you like or don't like about this podcast by firing off an email to us. You can send that to news@lindsey.edu. Be sure to put podcast in the subject line. Also, be sure to encourage your friends, family members, co-workers, and neighbors to subscribe to View from the Hill. In addition to being on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, we're also available on the college's YouTube channel. To find us there, point your browser to youtube.com/LWC Public Relations and click on the podcast tab. Until our next edition, I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsey Wilson Office of Public Relations. Thanks so much for listening. So long, everybody, and have a nice day.